I'm discussing Canto 33. This is the depths of Dante's hell. And I was talking about how at the very end of it, Dante encounters Satan. But it's not really accurate to talk about an encounter because, and this was obviously a conscious and very shrewd decision by Dante. You might expect some kind of grand confrontation between Dante and Satan, but no, Dante realizes at this point he's a different pilgrim than he was at the beginning of the Inferno. He's learned a lot. We'll see in a moment how he's learned. But Dante's view is the devil is to be avoided. Yeah, the devil is not to be engaged. Don't fool with the devil. And so when Dante gets kind of a sidelong glimpse at Satan, he quickly moves away and does not attempt to engage Satan in any way. We don't get the kind of Dante-Satan encounter in the end of Inferno, not at all. Now, a little earlier, Dante had encountered a corrupt friar named Fra Albert Rigo. Now, this guy is a really bad guy. He's been taking bribes. He's kind of a corrupt guy in the church. And it's a very interesting depiction because Dante was under the impression that this guy was alive. And it turns out that he is alive. A kind of exception almost to the obviously dead people who are here in hell. But Dante makes the point that his soul is dead. And so in a way, he's already been damned. He's already in hell. And even though his body is still on earth, Dante says his body is inhabited, or at least Dante is informed, his body is inhabited by a devil. So this is a really bad guy, Fra Albert Rigo, and he kind of beckons to Dante, and he's been weeping tears, and the tears are freezing in the kind of icy cold of the depths of hell. And this Fra Albert Rigo guy tells Dante, hey, Dante, come over here. Not hey, Dante, but he beckons to the pilgrim to kind of wipe the ice out of his eyes. And Dante, very interestingly, refuses to do that. Now, let's think of how far Dante has come. Now, true, there are some readers who read this and go, oh, this is a very insensitive action on the part of Dante. He can't even help this poor guy and remove some. No, the whole point is that in the early parts of the Inferno, Dante was sympathetic to sinners. He was very sympathetic to Francesca. He was sympathetic to Pierre della Vigne, and his he swoons in the one case. He's filled with pity. He's even filled with pity when he sees his old mentor, Brunetto Latini, in the circle of the Sodomites. And so Dante was sort of taking the sinner's side against God. But notice here the opposite. Deep in hell, Dante knows that these guys are exactly where they deserve to be. And you know what? They're not only exactly where they deserve to be, they're exactly where they want to be. Now, this is a very profound idea we need to think about for a little bit, because Dante's view, which I think is the correct view, is that the people who get God are the people who want God. And the people who get hell are the people who want to be there. Now, in the first case, it may seem kind of obvious. I don't think it is obvious, by the way. When the Bible says that salvation is the gift of God, many people think that God is giving us a gift called salvation. But think about it. Let's look at that phrase. Salvation is the gift of God. God is the gift. God himself is the reward. And so if you seek God, and think of all the biblical passages where it's ask and you shall receive and seek and you shall find. Notice it's not seek and you may find. It's seek and you shall find. And so the Bible is promising that if you seek God, you're going to find God. The true seeker will in the end be rewarded. And so Dante sort of picks this up. And in Dante's, we'll see this in Purgatory, we'll see this in Paradise, the people who are there sought God. Many of them lived turbulent and tempestuous, in some cases even vile and disgraceful lives. But in the end, their soul turned and they sought God. The sinners here in hell don't want God. And we're going to see this really clearly in the case of this guy named Count Ugolino. He is a guy that wants to be exactly where he is. He derives a certain kind of perverse satisfaction even from being in hell. Now, this may seem kind of crazy, but what we're going to find out is that deep in hell you have enmity, you have rage, you have deadly enemies who derive a certain perverse satisfaction in inflicting pain on each other. And so to me, the rather unforgettable image here as we go right into hell, let me just begin with the first few lines and I'll leave it at this and pick it up the next time. lifting his mouth from his horrendous meal, the sinner first wiped off his messy lips in the hair remaining on the chewed-up skull, and then spoke. Wow, let's pause for a moment. You have a guy, and we'll discover in a moment, this is Count Ugolino, a political figure, Guelph as it turns out, from the northern part of Italy. And what is he doing? He is actually gnawing on another man's head. He's biting him, and he's sort of cannibalizing the other man's head. And so he lifts his mouth from this horrendous meal. And apparently there's all kinds of stuff in his mouth, so he has to wipe off his messy lips, which have gotten hair, which he has bitten off from the other guy. And he takes a sort of interruption from what he's doing to speak. And we're just going to follow his first words here. He says to Dante the Pilgrim, "You want me to renew a grief so desperate that just the thought of it, much less the telling, grips my heart with pain." So what he's saying to Dante, Count Ugolino, is he's saying to Dante, you want me to tell you my story. For me to tell you my story is going to be for me to relive it. It's going to cause me intense pain to do it. It grips my heart with pain. And so the question then becomes, why are you doing it? And the answer is that Count Ugolino wants to tell, even though it causes him pain. And you might remember here that this was exactly what Francesca said to Dante. She said to Dante, in effect, it's going to cause me pain to have to tell you my story again about me and Paolo and everything that happened and how it ended. And yet she does. She goes right on ahead. And so you might ask, why did she do it? And here we ask, why does Ugolino want to tell his story again? And here's why. Because he wants to expose the villainy of the guy whose head he's biting. And basically, Ugolino's point is, even though it causes me pain, I don't care. You know why? Because I want to get this guy. And what Dante is getting at here is this is the essence of enmity and rage. Very often people who are filled with enmity and rage, it hurts them. But they don't mind. Why? Because they take a certain kind of perverse satisfaction in causing more harm to the other guy. So Dante wants to sort of rat out this other guy. He wants eternity, and Ugolino wants Dante to know, this is the true villain. This is the guy who belongs in the deepest part of hell, not me, because he wronged me. And when we come back tomorrow, or at least on Monday, I'll pick up Ugolino's story and what it says, not just about what happened to Ugolino, but why Ugolino himself is here deep in the bowels of Dante's Inferno.